G'day guys, Tony from GME. Today we're down at Total Care 4-wheel drive in Sydney. We're going to be installing an XRS-330 in this MUX. So to get started, generally we recommend that you lay out all the components in the box. What we've got here is the XRS-330C radio. The package comes with all of the things that you'll need to get started. So your power cables, your microphone extension, your microphone mounting bracket, and all of the associated mounting hardware. So to get started with the antenna, it's really simple. You unscrew the bolt off the bottom of the antenna, install it on your tab on your bull bar, and then tighten up the nut, making sure that you're not pinching the cable or crimping it while you do so. Once you've got the antenna firmly mounted on the bull bar, nip it up with the appropriate tool, and then start to feed the cable through the engine bay and towards the grommet and the firewall that you're going to need to feed the cable through to get to the cabin. Again, make sure that the cable's nice and tidy, it's not pinked or knotted, or it's going to get pinched or pulled on anything when the vehicle's in operation. So once you've got the cable going through the firewall, pull it through, again being careful not to damage the cable. So next we're going to remove the center console fascia. This is to enable us to get to the rear of the panel, remove the switch blank and install the RJ45 pass-through adapter, which clips in quite nicely, and we've got a number of vehicle-specific models to suit most of the popular vehicles on the market. As you can see, Jason's already wired up the RJ45 connector with the red and black, which is what will give you the illuminated LED on the GME logo. Once you've got the RJ45 connector installed in the fascia, you then need to insert the male version of the RJ45 extension cable into the back of the connector. And obviously, once you've got the fascia back in, then you can plug your microphone in later on. So the RJ45 connectors from GME are an 8-pin Cat6 connector, so it's a really stable connection, and they're designed to work specifically with our XRS range of radios. So once you've got it all connected up, you then need to feed the extension cable through to where the radio is going to be mounted. Now you can see Jason installing the rubber pads onto the side of the radio chassis. So this stops the radio vibrating around and moving within the mounting bracket. It's something that's in the majority of our radios, and it's something that we really recommend that you do use. So next we're going to mount the main radio unit itself, and the beauty of the XRS radios, as they're a hideaway, the main unit can be put somewhere nice and safe out of the way, doesn't need to be up on the dash, so a really convenient mounting method here. So we've already taken off the side kick panel on the passenger side footwell, and we've installed the cradle, so there's just a couple of self-tapping screws that allow you to mount the cradle wherever you need it to go. So we've pre-drilled 2 holes, screwed it on, and then obviously orientated the holes in the chassis so that it lines up with the mounting cradle. So once you've got the mounting cradle installed where you want it to be, you then insert the radio into the cradle and do up the 2 gimbal knobs that are supplied with the radio. Next, we're plugging the RJ45 extension into the front connector on the radio. We're connecting up the 12-volt power lead, which will obviously then connect to the battery in due course. And we're also going to connect the pre-terminated FME connector on the antenna into the back of the radio. So once you've screwed the antenna connector into the back of the radio, it is a good idea to take a small spanner and just nip up the nut on the back of the connector to ensure that it doesn't come loose if you're driving on particularly corrugated or rough roads in future. Once you've got all the cables connected to the radio, neaten them all up, apply some cable ties or wire twists, tape, whatever you need, and then reinstall the kick panel on the side of the footwell. Once you've got all your cables connected to your radio and it's in your desired location, replace the kick panel in the footwell, making sure that any of the factory clips that you've undone to take it off are obviously reconnected, and then reinstall the fascia in the center console in the same way that you pulled it out. Now that you've got everything back in its factory location, you can plug your microphone into the front of the RJ45 pass-through, and then you need to install your microphone mounting bracket. So today we're using our magnetic microphone mount. It is an optional accessory for the XRS-330. It's supplied with a piece of 3M VHB adhesive, which means you don't have to drill any additional holes to mount the microphone bracket, which is great, particularly if you've got a new vehicle. So next we're going to connect the power cable up. With this particular installation, we've made the decision to run permanent power direct from the battery. Now, if you weren't going to run the direct power from the main battery, you can always try and pick up an accessory wire from behind the dash somewhere if you want the radio only to come on with the ignition. What we generally recommend though is that you can wire your radio directly to the main battery. So the main benefit of wiring the radio directly to the battery is you can still operate the radio when the vehicle's powered off. So if you're sitting in camp, your car's turned off, but you want to remain contactable via the UHF, having that permanent power on there is a really nice option. So you can see here, Jason's actually staggering the positive and negative power cables just to ensure that nothing shorts out whilst we're doing the installation. So here you can see Jason's already applied some heat shrink onto the cables, so once they're connected up, you can then apply some heat and just make sure that those connections are protected from any ingress. Once you've got all your cables cut to the correct length, you've got your heat shrink in place, solder up the connections, apply the heat shrink, and then wrap it with a little bit of electrical tape just to ensure that you've got the best possible connection and nothing's going to come loose in future. So once your wiring's done in the cab, it's time to move to the engine bay. Whilst all GME radios are supplied with a pre-fused power cable, we do suggest for additional peace of mind installing an additional inline fuse closer to the battery. We're now going to put a ring terminal on the end of the power cables, both the positive and the negative side, and then crimp that terminal onto the cable. If you are fussy, you can fill the back of the crimp with solder. It's not required, but it does give you a more solid connection. Once you've got the ring terminals connected to the wires, connect the wires up to the respective posts on the battery. So black wire going to negative terminal and red wire going to the positive terminal. Once you've got those all done up, it's time to go into the cabin of the vehicle, power the radio up, check that all your connections have been done correctly, and then you're good to go.